The fools and fanatics are certain of themselves, but the wiser people are full of doubts. I was that kid who was kind of pudgy. I couldn't do push-ups. I was 18 and he was 78. And I tried to keep up with him for one day. And because I smoked, I was like, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't keep up with him physically. He was 60 years older than me.
Wow.
And he kicked my. Most people are dying because they're under-muscled. Don't exercise, you're not going to live long. What's the point of living to 85 if I tell you I'm going to give you an extra 10 years of life, but you're going to be on kidney dialysis, sick all day? If you don't, you cannot get healthy. If you eat, you can't out-hack.
What's the biggest lie the wellness industry is still telling people?
The magic pill fallacy. If people who are outside of the biological optimization realized how good they could actually feel, if you could give them one day in their own bodies where they felt fully optimized, they would quit so many of those bad behaviors if they knew that that was the outcome.
Hello and welcome to Wellness is Life podcast. I'm your host Natalia, Naila, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Elias Arjan. He's the co-founder and CEO of PRUVN, a research-driven company that helps validate the science behind wellness products. And he's spent over 30 years at the forefront of innovation in health, longevity, and technology. But his work goes way beyond the data. Elias has lived off-grid, trained with spiritual teachers, and explored the full spectrum of what it means to thrive physically, mentally, and spiritually. He's an advocate for evidence-based wellness and dynamic speaker and a bridge between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science. We're going to talk about everything from optimizing health span and decoding biohacking trends to what's real in the world of longevity and what's just noise. Plus, we'll dive into his personal routines, testing protocols, and the one belief he wishes everyone had about their health. Elias, it's so grateful to have you in my studio here in Hollywood. Thank you so much. I always see you on stages around the country, different biohacking conferences, longevity summits, and you also have your own one coming up in October. I can't wait to be part of it.
The healthspan summit, and we're having you speak,
yes,
so you're going to be there.
Thank you so much. Super excited. And by the way, you are a wonderful speaker. I always love watching you speak. You just have such a passion, and the way you deliver everything is just so inspiring.
Oh, thank you.
And I learn a lot from you, now being a speaker on stage too, so I actually do learn a lot from you.
Oh, well, thank you.
So I'm super excited to have this incredible conversation about the longevity and what really works in this space and what doesn't. So, and also your background is so layered from your early days to where you're now. You've lived off grids, studied ancient wisdom, traveled the world, and explored some pretty deep past most people never even think about. What did those experiences teach you about the human body and spirit?
So, that's a very big question. So, to be brief, I think it just taught me to have respect for other people's perspectives. We live in a Western culture. I grew up in Canada. I now live in the US. But when you travel the world, you realize everybody is living in their own version of reality. And what I think is right may not be right for them, in the same way that biologically, when we really talk about health optimization, what my strategy is to be healthy is maybe not the same as yours or the same as yours or yours. We all have to find our own unique path, and that I learned to have respect for that in a very profound way. I try to live by that principle.
Yeah. And it also teaches you to not being selfish, right? And also drop your ego once you experience different cultures, different people, how they live.
Well, it's I could summarize it. I think Bertrand Russell has a great quote where he says, "The fools and fanatics are certain of themselves, but the wiser people are full of doubts." And so that's kind of like the problem with the world, right? Is that the more you learn and the more you understand, the more you realize what you don't know. And so it's a really profound statement.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Like you can say it and people go, oh, yes, but if you really, really understand what that means, you have a much greater humility for about your own opinion. right? So it's like, yes, I come to a podcast, I can give you my opinion on things, but I also realize like there's so much that I don't know, and everybody needs to kind of find their own way to navigate this thing we call reality.
Right. And so what did start and spark your interest to be in a health span and do the work that you do now?
So, I mean, this is a funny story because I was that kid like who was kind of pudgy, back when I was growing up, I struggled like in athletics. I couldn't do push-ups. Like we used to do these things where you would have to like score your health performance in gym class. And I was always like dead last. And then when I got into high school, like I kind of started hanging out with the bad kids, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, and, doing bad things. So when I knew that was a dead end, it was not a good path. So when I was 18, I went to go live with my grandfather, who had come from like the Ukraine in a farming community, grew up on a farm. And I was 18 and he was 78. And I tried to keep up with him for one day. And because I smoked, I was like, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't keep up with him physically. He was 60 years older than me.
Wow.
And he kicked my ass in a couple hours, just trying to keep up with him physically. And it's like an epiphany. I was like, wow, like how you live your life is how you're going to end up. And I just realized like I got to do some major change here, and I've just never stopped.
So that was your pivotal moment in life. That's incredible. I love that. So I'm glad that it happened earlier.
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm lucky it happened early. Yeah, I'm grateful to him for that. He was a true inspiration.
What kind of steps did you take at that moment?
I joined the gym the next day because I really wasn't into athletics or working out. And so I started working out and I started taking my health seriously. And lo and behold, 2 years later, I was studying like exercise science and I was a personal trainer. I was competing in triathlons.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
And so I became very focused on like what does it take to achieve high performance, both in an athletic context, and then I also was always interested into it like psycho-spiritually, but it was the whole thing. Like I just wanted to try to understand the whole idea of what peak performance is.
And then it took you around the world. When did you actually realize that you had to travel and explore shamanic world and spiritual world?
So that's the interesting part. So I was going to go into medical school. So I was doing my pre-med, exercise science into pre-med. And I decided, okay, if I'm going to go down this path, I'm going to take like a gap year, you know what I mean, and go travel. And when I started traveling, I was talking to people and I started talking to physicians, like, I'm going to be a doctor. And they said, why do you want to be a doctor? I said, well, because I want to make people healthier, because I'm a personal trainer and I love training people to be healthier. And they said, well, don't become a doctor then, because you deal with sick people and you give them drugs. And they said, like, that's not what it's not what you think. And that was like, I was like, uh-oh, like that was the path I had picked. So what do I do now? So I started asking around, and then I was in my early 20s, I guess it was like 22, and I was asking people, like, if you were me, because I would ask people when they're like 50 years or older, if you were me, what would you do when you were young? And they all said travel.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love traveling.
So I took their advice. I just said, okay, everyone's told me like that's the regret. And you hear that a lot of times, like they talk about the regrets people have on their deathbed. And like nobody regrets like, no one says like, oh, I wish I had worked harder at my job or I had, made more money. They say, I wish I spent more time with my family. I wish I had traveled. I wish I had loved more. I wish I had given more.
And laugh more.
And laugh more and dance more, so I was like, okay, those are the important things. And I was lucky I figured that out young.
And how long did you travel for?
About 25 years.
I didn't expect that. That's amazing.
Like
I thought you were going to say like 5 years.
No, I just didn't stop. I just once I got going, maybe not 25, I guess like from 22 to I settled down at like 45. So 23 years.
Wow. What's the best experiences and where was the most off-beaten parts that you traveled was like it was literally shocked you or you were like you changed your whole life?
I mean, there's a lot of places that changed me.
But you're like top 3. Let's really quick top 3.
I mean, I think, there was a time I went to Vietnam and I have long, hairy arms. And the Vietnamese men, I guess they're hairless, right? And so there were people like I was tall, so I'm 6'3", and so like there were places in Vietnam where I felt like I was like Sasquatch, like walking around because people were just looking at me with complete, this is before I think Vietnam opened up to where it is, today. So that was the place where I definitely felt like definitely out of place in a lot of Asian countries. In Japan, in Tokyo, I could see over everyone's head. I love Japan.
I love Japan too.
Yeah, I love Japan. I think I did an extended time sailing and hiking through New Zealand, which was unforgettable. I mean, beautiful, beautiful country. So I think a lot of places where I saw nature, were just really moving, even my home country of Canada, going through the Rockies and going through like, British Columbia and Alaska is similar to New Zealand. Yeah. I loved the experiences of nature, and then maybe also some of the jungles. Iguazu Falls, if anyone's ever heard of that, it's on Argentina and Brazil, and it's
worth going.
Amazing. Wow. Yeah, underappreciated place for sure.
Would you like more cold or warm?
I like warm.
Climate.
Yeah, I was born in the wrong country. I'm not Canadian in that sense. Like I liked, I ended up moving. The one I did buy a condo in the Caribbean. I lived on the beach, so I lived there for a number of years.
Okay, I love that. So how did your time immersed in other cultures shape your approach to wellness?
Yeah, that's realizing again that we're all coming back to that idea, like we're all a unique fingerprint, right? You're 40 trillion human cells with 40 trillion bacterial cells. Mm-hmm. And all of that is made up of your genetics, your microbiome, your lifestyle, all of these things sort of come together, and people are very individual. We're all bio-individuals. Yeah. And that's true psychologically, that's true biologically. We share traits, we share characteristics. And I think my fascination with science is that, science is able to identify what are the consistently true things that we observe in the world. And so there's sort of like a psycho-spiritual component, which is more ephemeral, which is very hard to pinpoint. But I love the natural sciences because they can tell you biologically, if you take this peptide, you're going to get this result. And that's like a consistent phenomena you can point to.
Interesting. I went to Iceland. Have you been to Iceland?
I've missed Iceland. It's on my list. It's on my bucket list. One of the few places I've missed.
They have these blue lagoons. You must visit blue lagoons. But they also have this part because, I don't know if you know, Iceland was connected from two continents, Eurasia and North America. So when the world, I guess, millions of years ago.
Yeah, it's many. Yeah, Panacea, I think it was the original single continent, and it broke apart.
And Iceland is two continents. So there is actually a deep where it's a bridge between two continents, and they'll tell you this continent is Euro-Asian, and this is North America. So I went there and I stood on North America continent first, and I asked the universe, the land, where is my ancestors? Where is my spirit, my ancestors are from? And I didn't feel anything. So I walked the bridge on the Euro-Asian, and literally as soon as I stepped, oh my God, the bubbles, the energy just flew through my body, like so amazing. And I didn't have to ask that question, but I still asked. I said, well, I know I'm home, probably. And it was just beautiful knowing that actually my ancestors, which I know my ancestors are all European, and I have a little bit, Japanese even in me, if I tested my DNA. But it's interesting how the body cannot lie. Where your ancestors are coming from, what really good for you in the sense of where you're coming from.
Well, but you bring that up, and that's really interesting in this context of our modern life, because we all, like, you don't live where you're from. I don't live where I'm from, right? We don't necessarily have that sense of place or ancestry or culture that we're embedded in. And then everybody feels like they're kind of free floating in space, confused about where they are, where they belong, what they should be doing. I sometimes wonder, like... But
I think it's really important to remember where you come from, where your ancestors, because actually it will definitely help you to work with your longevity and wellness.
I agree. I agree. Because
DNA, your like even foods, certain foods that you eat.
I totally agree with you.
You must still have, if you were born in that region and your ancestors and your whole DNA eating, let's say an example, potatoes or kefir or something else. Like I know myself, if I do not have a kefir in my daily life, my microbiome doesn't like it. So I have to have a kefir because I grew up on that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Like, it's so funny. My wife is an Italian chef, and she can eat pasta. I can't metabolize carbs. Right. So I'm gluten-free, like, which drives her crazy because she's like a chef. But, the reality is like, you're right. This is a fundamental layer of longevity that I think we often miss, that like where your ancestry is. I mean, that's tied to genetics and microbiome, like I said. So, so it's kind of like, in a way, some of the foundations of longevity are just common sense, but we don't simplify it enough,
right. Yeah, that's true. It's beautiful. So at the Biohackers World event in LA, we were just we were both together like last month. You spoke about the evolution of biohacking, its origins, and how it's changed. How did you first get involved in biohacking, and what does the word biohacking mean to you?
Okay, so this is a big question for me because when I moved to LA 8 years ago is when I encountered this idea of biohacking, and I loved it at the time. I became a hardcore advocate at the beginning because to me, biohacking was the idea of applying the scientific method is an N of 1 experiment. And so for anybody who doesn't know what that means, it's like you're an N of 1, like you're a bio individual. So you need to like do all of the testing and all of the experimentation and keep a record of what works, what diets work, what don't work, what foods do you respond to. So it was really this idea of, like I said, being very rigorously scientific with your approach to health. But then what I feel like happened over the last 5 years or so is it went from that quantified self movement into this sort of commercialized
buy more supplements, buy more devices.
Buy more,
about
hack.
Yeah.
And it became filled with pseudoscience and cults of personality. And so that's why around 3 years ago, I was like, this is not what I signed up for. And I sort of left the term biohacking behind. I actually even did a talk at an event. I said, why I'm leaving biohacking. And I started adopting the term healthspan, which now is starting to gain traction. But to me, that's actually the more important idea because you can't hack yourself out of exercise and good diet. So like you need to look at the fundamentals and you need to look at the science as well. And I feel like, biohacking in its ideas would be great, like if it was being expressed perfectly, but what it's become, I'm not a fan of.
So what's the fundamentals, if you would go back to original biohacking, what's the fundamentals you think people should take? Approaching the longevity space.
I think the number one thing is just, like I said, realizing that there isn't going to be a bunch of hacks that are you can't out-hack exercise. If you don't move your body, you cannot get healthy. If you eat a bad diet, you can't out-hack a bad diet.
But do you think testing also plays a big role, like knowing your data?
Yes.
Blood tests and knowing your data, knowing what supplements later on to add to your protocols, or let's say, how much sleep do you need? Because everybody's so different. So how do you...
there's certain fundamentals. Like I said, you need to know, you need to exercise, you need to find the right diet for your body. Unfortunately, we can't tell you what that is.
Nope.
We can't say everybody's got to be plant-based or keto. It's like, it's what's right for you. You got to prioritize sleep and you got to prioritize the psycho-spiritual life, right? Like you got to, you can't out-hack. Like I've met a lot of people who are very biologically optimized who are assholes, and you don't want to be around them.
Yeah, no,
you know what I mean?
know.
And the people don't like them. So it's like, it's great. You're biologically optimized, but if you don't
mindful, you don't have a right mindset, you're not spiritually connected, you're not kind,
you don't have love in your heart.
Love in your heart, then yes, it doesn't mean anything.
What does it mean? Like you could be
anything.
biologically optimized, but you don't have kindness and love, and you don't have healthy relationships. I mean, that's the number one thing we've actually found that predicts longevity is that people who are in an environment where the quality of their relationships will decide how long they live.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely right.
That's pretty important.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So what's the biggest lie the wellness industry is still telling people?
I think that what is known as the magic pill fallacy. And this is kind of a combination of what even the wellness industry is guilty of the same thing that they get angry at big pharma for, which is this magic pill fallacy. It's like you have X problem, this is your solution. And so let us give you the solution. You have this, I got you covered. And it's way more complex than that and nuanced than that. Like if you really go work with a skilled functional medicine practitioner or coach, they're going to look at the whole totality of what's going on, all of your blood labs, all of your sleep metrics, all of your genetic history, all of just your attitude towards the world, and combine that into a protocol, not a pill. And, I mean, I think people are saying, well, look, we have Ozempic, like it solved everything, didn't it? And there's also going to be repercussions from this overuse of any one exogenous substance.
And I think going back to my question, that's the ultimate way to start your longevity. Find a right functional doctor who overlooks everything and works with you to look at the whole picture and have a right protocol at that moment to tailor it just for you.
Yes. I mean, if you can afford one or find one, like this is the problem now, that longevity, and this is one of my missions, is to try to create opportunities for people to meet them where they are, because not everyone is going to be in a position where they can go and find this functional medicine doctor and pay all of the money to get all of these things figured out. So what they're doing is they're going online, they follow their favorite influencer who pushes one product, and then they go, oh, I'll try that, and then it doesn't work. And then, well, this other guy's pushing this other product, and she's pushing that product. So they try 5 or 10 different things, and then they're still in the same place. And they go, oh, this whole thing is garbage.
Yeah. What are the biggest myths people still believe about living longer or optimizing health?
That, I mean, I guess that they can somehow, like I said it again, but I have to just reiterate it, that they can sort of escape the fundamentals. Like you can't, like most people are dying because they're under-muscled. Don't exercise, you're not going to live long. Like, even people
especially after 40, you have to exercise. How much do you have to exercise? And how much do you exercise
So
these days?
You have to do a couple things. You have to just maintain metabolic health, you got to move every day. And it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be like, I feel like a lot of people, actually to re-answer that question, I feel like what I would say is people think they have to do these big things. And it's like, because I can't do the big things, I'm going to do nothing. But if you just move your body 3 minutes an hour, every hour, do 10 push-ups and 10 air squats every hour, you're going to stay metabolically healthy just from that action. So you don't have to be like, I can't afford to do an hour workout in the morning and then do my cold plunge and then meditate for half an hour. Like, people have kids, they got things going on, they got jobs. Like they can't live that life. So, but they can get up from their Zoom calls or their desk every hour, and it takes 3 minutes to do those air squats and push-ups.
After each meal,
go for a walk.
Even though if you don't have a walk, like just do 5 minutes to jumping jacks, squats.
Yeah, get a rebounder, rebound in the morning. Like it's the little things that add up over time.
Throughout the day. And then, of course, going to the gym. It's really important to build your muscles, like strength exercise. How important is strength exercise? Because I know you do work out a lot.
Yeah, I love resistance training. I've always loved the gym. I love lifting really heavy things. I guess it's the guy in me, that loves to look at the, and so I like actually going to the physical gym. I have a gym at home, but I find when I'm seeing, monkey see, monkey do, like I see other monkeys around me,
you're like,
humans.
get inspired more.
I get inspired, let's go. Like, he's lifting more than me. I got to deadlift. I got to put another plate on my deadlift bar, So,
I love that.
So I get more inspired to be at the gym, even though I have a home gym. So I try every day at home to do some resistance training, but I do, go to the gym, twice a week and lift as heavy as I can possibly handle. And that's not just for men, especially as women age, they need to do that resistance training because, like I said, you're not going to live a long life if you're under-muscled.
Right.
I mean, it's very clear.
Yeah. I work for Generation Lab. Generation Lab, they test for 19 organs on your biological age, also inflammation. And so I read those, do consultations after the test is ready. And I see a lot of females after 48, pretty much, it's a big number. They have already declining their muscle mass and muscle, what do you call the bone structure.
Yes, they're getting osteopenia, and osteoporosis, which will lead to osteoporosis.
Premenopause women, they're all getting that.
Yes.
And there's a couple of cases that I actually saw, a couple of ladies around the same my age, they were younger, and I was like curious. I was like, what do you guys do? And all of them said strength training.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you can see that in a test that women or men who are, especially women who are actually going to premenopause, adding 2 to 3 times strength training a week, they're not going to have any bone losses.
Yeah. And we're seeing this too, because it always used to be very popular for women to just use little 10-pound weights and move a lot. And now we're seeing that, especially, with older women, that lifting as heavy as they can. Yeah. They don't need to worry about becoming Arnold Schwarzenegger. You know what I mean?
They will never be.
They just need to lift heavy weights, and that's going to maintain their muscle health, their bone health, even their brain. We've even seen that cognitive health. No, but cognitive decline, one of the biggest predictors. And that's one of the scariest things, I think, for most people about aging is the idea that I'm going to lose my mind at some point. So my physical body is still walking around, but I'm cognitively gone. Well, if you're afraid of that, then lift heavy weights, go to the gym, move your body.
Yeah. So we hear a lot about lifespan, but how do you distinguish lifespan from health span?
Yeah. I mean, this is, to me, the most important thing because we've done a great job of extending lifespan, right? Like in the past, 150 years ago, if you saw to your 40th birthday, that was a great achievement, right? So most people, of course, there's accidental deaths, but infectious disease, accidental, we're not doing gunfights, right. people aren't dying of these things anymore. So, we're likely going to have a lifespan that potentially could be, into our 70s, maybe even 80s. Some people think we're going to get much longer, right? That's the idea of longevity. But what's the point of living to 85 if I tell you I'm going to give you an extra 10 years of life, but you're going to be on kidney dialysis, you're going to be sick all day, you're going to be on 20 medications, you're not going to be able to interact, your cognitive decline is going to go down. What's the point of that lifespan? Yeah. Yep. But if I can tell you, I'm going to give you an extra 10 years of life, but you're going to be healthy, you're going to be vibrant, you're going to be playing with life.
I want 20, 30 more years of that.
Yeah. So everybody wants health span. Yeah. So talking about extending lifespan to me is
doesn't mean anything.
It's meaningless.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about health span because everybody wants that. Everybody wants that. Even if I've talked to people about longevity, and they say, I don't care if I die at 65. Yeah. But would you want to be sick for the last 10 years of your life? No. So everybody wants health span. There's no argument there.
Right, that's true. If you could instill one belief in everyone about health or longevity, what would it be?
I would give everybody enough discipline to get going.
Discipline is such a big thing.
Because that was the thing I saw as a personal trainer, and I've seen my whole life, is that you can give people all the information, you can give them all the guidance, you can give them the tools, you can try to do everything to create the perfect environment for them to succeed with their health, but they have to want it. They have to do the work. I can't lift the weight for you and you get the result. So that would be what I would give everybody.
And it comes down to everything. Going to bed early, that's the discipline, right? Taking certain health things in your life. It's a discipline, right? Eating the right foods, not eating too much. I mean, all of that, what we do, it is a discipline.
Yeah. And I think but problem is with the word discipline is people think it's like this,
Army base, kind of a heart.
it's like
Would you
this,
say
this
that
very,
habit changing?
yes, that's maybe the better way to put it for people is it's like, it's the idea of it's giving people the understanding that a small, consistent habit leads to growth.
Yes.
So it's like if you get up and like I'm telling somebody, okay, go do 10 air squats. Okay, get up in the morning and do one. And then do one for 3 days.
Yep.
And then on the fourth day, maybe you do two and you do that for a week.
Right. Small incremental changes. That's what takes.
But you do that over a year and just every time you feel like you can do one more, you do one more. Next thing you know, you've lost 10 pounds, you're going for a walk, you're feeling better about your body. And what I find training people, I'm sure you see this too, like small successes lead to more motivation, to lead to larger successes, and it all compounds.
Yes.
But it's that initial push to get people to start. And that's what I wish I could just hand people, like here's the thing, here's the magic glass of motivation to start on that journey.
Yeah, no, it's beautifully said because I even see it in my clients. Like when I, early in my career, I was like, I wanted to change them so fast. I will give them so much to do, like boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And all of them fail. And I was like, oh my God, like this doesn't work. So how about like changing, literally doing baby steps? Because it took them this long to get here. Why do you think they're going to right away start taking this, doing this, going to change their life? No, they're going to fail. So little changes. And that's why sometimes I say you have to find a right coach to work for 6 months to a year. That's how long it takes to change the habits.
Yes.
And someone has to also guide you, take you by a hand and kind of like be accountable for you. And so I've seen incredible changes in people's when they take small changes, I guide them, and then suddenly in 1 year, they're running on their own and they don't really need any more your help. They always
that's the
be
sign
there
of
for
a good
you.
coach. That's the sign of a good coach. When you work yourself out of a job to a certain degree. Yeah. I would just to add to that, because I think it's important, there's kind of two ways to change behavior, right? There's that, like you said, that slow, methodical, slight, incremental development over time, which is very important and that's very effective. Some people, though, really respond to what's called a pattern interrupt, which is what happened to me, right? I was in a pattern, going back to my story of my grandfather, I was in a pattern where I knew it wasn't good for me. I was smoking cigarettes and I wanted to quit smoking, but I didn't know how. And then I left my environment. This is why I love traveling, because I left my environment. All of the signals in my environment were gone. I put myself in a completely different environment and I saw my grandfather, 60 years older than me, kicking my ass physically. And I was motivated. So it was like an epiphany and a pattern interrupt that led to massive transformation. And so both ways can work, right? That's why sometimes people will go on like a week-long retreat to try to interrupt their pattern.
Right.
And I'm sure you've experienced this. We talked about travel. Like when you go live in another city for a week or a month, you're behaving differently. You become a different person.
Totally.
Right?
For sure.
But then you come home, like they saw this with addicts. Right? If you want to get somebody off like severe drug addiction, like if you take them to rehab for even a couple months, but then you put them back in the same environment where they were an addict,
they go back to
to being an addict.
Yeah. So I would say how I personally, what worked for me, I always, even till these days, let's say if I feel like, oh, I've been doing the same pattern for a while, it needs to change because it needs to rewire something different. So let's say if I'm driving this particular always on autopilot, this street to my work, I will take a totally different route.
Yeah.
And then every day, even though I wanted to take this route that is easy, fast, it's on autopilot. No, I have to. And it takes sometimes 21 days. I believe there's a great book. It says it takes 21 days to change any habits, any patterns. Yeah. So, but deliberately, you have to think of that every day, every time to change that pattern.
That's what I'm talking about, is conscious pattern interruption. If anybody wants to test this at home, go brush your teeth with the
With
opposite
the
hand.
left, yes, I do that too.
If you ever do that, you suddenly realize how deep in that pattern you are, how difficult it is.
And you start thinking different thoughts at that moment.
Yeah.
Because, when we in autopilot, we're just like thinking about, we don't even know what we're thinking.
Every day, every day at 4 o'clock, if every day at 2 o'clock you have a coffee and a biscuit to pick you up, right? Then your body, if you take that coffee and biscuit away.
And add celery juice.
Yeah. But if you take that away, you're going to feel like your body's going to be like, where's my coffee? Where's my caffeine?
True.
Where's my sugar? Right? And you're going to feel that because your body's in that pattern.
So let's talk about technologies like gene editing, nanotech, and brain-computer, AI, and real and accelerating. I mean, we just brought back the real dire wolf from extinction. Did you see that Time magazine?
Well, there's some argument about whether those were actual dire wolves. They genetically manipulated a wolf and added in through CRISPR certain genes. So it's not like exactly what they did in Jurassic Park, where the full genome was intact. But there's some semantics scientifically in there, but go on. I get your point.
So what do you think we're heading toward and post-human future? And what excites or worries you right now?
Oh my God. I mean, this is a whole podcast in itself. I think there's a utopian and a dystopian future that we could be headed into. I'm an optimist, so I want to aim for the utopian possibilities, which is pretty amazing. Like, I know scientists who are working right now on growing bioidentical organs.
Yeah.
So it's not like, if you need a liver transplant, right, the biggest problem you have is that somebody else's liver, your whole immune system responds so severely to it, and it may not take except the organ. So they could actually take a sample of your DNA, not even need a stem cell now, just take a sample of your DNA and grow a bioidentical liver that your body's just going to be like, oh, it's a new liver. It's like going to totally work. So, I mean, that's amazing. I mean, that's an astounding future. So there's a beautiful potential in that, but there's also going to be a future where we're going to have, where you could look at this, where people are going to have brain implants that are going to turn them into super soldiers plugged into the cloud, where they're controlled by some dystopian dictator. I mean, these are possibilities that we're stepping into, with what could actually happen. I mean, this is not science fiction. This is
do you think
real.
it will bring the dinosaurs back?
I mean,
when I was reading that Time magazine, it kind of like, oh my God, are we bringing the dinosaurs back?
The thing is that we don't have intact genome data, to my understanding at least, or maybe we don't have the technology yet to be able to extract a full genetic sequence from the bones or from the tissues that are that old. So that's what they did with the dire wolf, is they got enough of the sequence to be able to manipulate an existing example of that species, of a current wolf, and change enough of its genome that it has a thicker coat, a bigger body. But I mean, CRISPR is amazing technology, gene editing, so I mean, that can cure diseases. We can cure sickle cell anemia now with CRISPR. So there's beautiful possibilities, and it's really going to be up to us on how we apply them.
Let's talk PRUVN.
Okay.
What inspired you to start this company?
So I guess maybe I should just state what PRUVN is. I mean, our mission at PRUVN is to validate the claims of longevity and wellness companies.
Which is huge.
Yeah. So for a long time, as much as people want to attack big pharma or the medical industry, the fact remains that they go through research. And a lot of times that research is done independently. Yes, it's funded by the pharmaceutical companies, but they hire what's called CROs. And the contract research organizations go and they do the research. The goal is for them to be independent and then to report back to the regulatory agencies, like whether the drug worked or didn't. They test it for safety. They test it for efficacy. They test it on diverse populations so that's going to apply across as many people as possible. And our vision was to at least start down that path for wellness and longevity, because right now it's just driven by marketing claims. And so we believe our industry can do better. And so I'm doing this to actually elevate the industry, because I think, honestly, there's so many people I hear in the medical community saying, oh, all those supplements are garbage, or all that red light therapy is just, nonsense. And so it's like, there's a lot of research on red light therapy, but,
which particular is right and which not, right?
yeah, is the device, have the right dose? Is it working in real life situations? Because a lot of the companies point to red light therapy research, but they never test their device. So I want to give them an opportunity to test their device and do the research, make it independent, and get the data and make it cost effective for them.
Yeah. And what people should look for when they're looking for brands to, of course, approval from one of your companies? And also, what separates you from other companies? Are there other companies who do the same thing what you do?
There's not many. There's a couple that are doing, I think this is going to be a growing trend, and I welcome more companies. We couldn't service the industry, right? It's a massive industry. So we couldn't do it alone.
Yeah,
so
the industry is growing so fast with
it's
supplements.
breakneck speed.
It's like crazy, and we don't know. It's such a big topic. I'm like, I just wanted to ask you so many questions. Okay, so and also in the supplement world, how do we know which supplements are right or not? Like you said, so many people now, influencers, even Amazon, you don't even know what to buy on Amazon.
Yeah.
Amazon is totally fake with so many fake bottles.
So Amazon got kind of busted by this, but in a way, I'm not going to throw Amazon under the bus. Like, what they did is they kind of created an open shopping platform. So people were copying the bottles of other brands and putting it up for sale on Amazon before their systems would catch it, right? In the same way that you could say people put content on Facebook that's complete garbage. And, we've created these open systems, right, for commerce and for social media. And there's going to be bad actors, right? So I don't want to throw the industry under the bus because of a couple of bad actors.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what I do want to focus on is highlighting the good actors, right? So who are the companies that do batch testing, right? Because that's the other thing. Like a lot of people have independently gone and tested products, and they don't even contain what they say that's in them. And that's not just these fake labels. That's products that are being sold widely. So there's a real difference between the supplement companies that are doing it right and the supplement companies that are just taking advantage of the trend.
And so what people should look for it when they buy a supplement?
I mean, there's a bunch of things that you can look for. You can look for if it's what they call good manufacturing practices or GMP certified. Some of the supplement companies, even though they're not required to do so, they actually make it in an FDA certified lab. So they're not making drugs, but it's like the FDA has certified that they're following these practices. It's high quality. There's a couple brands that, like I said, do batch testing. They have, certificates that show that, that they've actually have the ingredients that they say. So you kind of got to dig into that a little bit more. And to be quite honest, those companies you're probably paying a little bit more money for. They're bigger names, they're bigger brands, but it's worth it. I mean, if you're ingesting this into your body, don't you want to be do you want to be taking? People are talking about things being toxic. Well, the excipients that you can use, the binders that you can use in supplements could also be kind of toxic. I mean, they're talking about food dyes. I mean, if there's a little bit of food dye in a product, people are freaking out. But what if there's like a completely toxic binder in the supplement you're taking? You don't even know.
Right. So would they go to the website? They need to look for a third party tested, right?
Yes,
maybe
that's the best. Like
PRUVN,
that's
also
best.
PRUVN logo. If
PRUVN
logo
a company, or third party testing, clinically validated, but look at what that means, because a lot of times there's this difference between evidence informed and evidence-based. So this is the problem we have, is like it's a semantics of how words can be used. People can say clinically proven formula.
Okay.
And sometimes with a good actor, that means they've tested the exact final configuration of their product and proven that it works. But sometimes they could say, well, ashwagandha has X effect. There's all these studies on ashwagandha. We put ashwagandha in our product, therefore our product works, but they've never tested their product. So it's kind of sneaky. So what that means is that, do I know if that ashwagandha is bioavailable? Is it in the concentrations that were successful in the study? So let's say if you go and then and this is why it's hard, because if you're a consumer, you're not going to do this. You're not going to go read the study and say, oh, the effective dose of ashwagandha in the study, and I'm not saying this is correct, so I don't know what the effective dose is, but let's say it was like 200 milligrams. Well, this product only has 50 milligrams. And then they're saying, well, this was the study that proved ashwagandha has the effect, but they don't have enough of a dose in their product to even have that effect. But then they're saying it's clinically proven because there's a study. So you see how this gets complicated.
Right. It's the world is so big of the supplementation, and I'm actually myself even guilty of taking a lot of them, but at least I know what I'm taking now these days, because being around people like yourself and talking to what's good, what's not, and at least I try it myself for the first 2-3 months and see if it works, and then I can speak about it.
Yeah, that's the other thing too, is maybe there's some way you can do some self-testing, some self-tracking. I mean, if you really want to go all the way, I mean, do that. Get a wearable, and if it's a sleep supplement that's supposed to improve your sleep, does it? But you also have to give it some time too.
Yeah.
People also think like, oh, I started taking it last week, it's not working. It's like, maybe you need to take it for 3 months.
Yeah, well, at least like a month.
Yeah.
To see.
Most of our studies at PRUVN are 30 to 90 days.
30 to 90 days.
Yeah. And that's when we can see if the dose response was having an impact. We don't just do supplements. We do protocols. We do devices. And you can look at what's called acute, which is like in the moment. Some products work immediately.
Okay.
So you do a pre and post intervention in the moment, and then you look at longitudinal over 30, 60, 90 days. We're doing a 6-month study with a company right now too, because we're doing a whole protocol. So there's a lot of ways to approach research. And ultimately, unfortunately, until we get a masterful AI that does this for all of us, we all need to kind of be the advocates for our own health.
For ourselves. And do PRUVN recommend certain, if you've done a great research for the company and they have your logo, do you guys put them on your website, say, hey, this particular brand supplement, or it's,
so that's kind of what we're trying to figure out right now, because we don't want to be in the business of like, we're an independent agency, right? Independent analyst. So we're not going to become affiliates. That's why you won't hear me like
a brand.
I don't rep brands.
Yes.
I will say what the research shows, or occasionally if I have a really positive experience, I'll share my experience, but I will never share like, I'm not out there sharing my affiliate codes, right? And it's just because of the position I've taken of what I want to do as an independent analyst, an independent voice. But we are working at building ecosystems. That's one of the reasons why I do the Healthspan Summit.
Yeah.
Because at the Healthspan Summit, I can bring in the brands and the speakers that I know and trust. I curate that event. So I know that I'm prepared to say that these people are doing things that I can get behind, and I do have my science team at PRUVN look through any of the brands that apply and make sure that they are at least evidence informed to a degree that we are comfortable with.
Yeah, and let's talk about Healthspan, your summit that you started in January 2023.
May of 2023. Okay. So we're in our third year, so 23, 24, 25.
So you do it once a year?
Yes.
And in where exactly? So
the first one we did at Bioscience LA, and that was where I got Brian Johnson to speak before anybody knew who he was. Cool. And so that was, so people often talk about that being like the first time they saw him, but there was only like 100 people in the room, which was kind of funny. And then last year we went to UCLA South Bay, this beautiful venue overlooking the ocean, Catalina Island. It's a 35-acre campus. And we sort of spread out across the campuses, indoor-outdoor experiences. And it's a bit of a trek, but it's like a retreat. It's worth coming. Yeah, it's 2 days, right? 2 days, yeah. So it's going to be... This year is going to be October 2nd to the 5th. No, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Oh, 3rd, okay. 4th, and 5th, yeah. The 3rd is the VIP day, so you're a speaker, so speakers VIPs are invited to that day, but you would have to have a VIP ticket or be invited. And then the 4th and the 5th is the full public summit and festival.
So what's going to be different? What speakers, what's going to be different at your event?
Well, I think again, like it's very carefully curated. So everybody is very evidence-based. And we're trying to bridge the worlds of, AI and technology, but that's not our focus. Our focus is really like the functional medicine, personalized health. What does healthspan and longevity actually mean? And we've created it in such a way that there's kind of like 3 experiences that you can choose from. So if you want to be an industry person, you're an insider, you want to be connecting to the speakers, connecting to the VIPs, meeting investors, potentially meeting other founders in the industry, you can be part of the VIP program. And there's like a large VIP lounge with a lot of benefits. So it's kind of like you can be an industry insider with the VIP ticket. If you want to come and maybe you're getting new to the space and you just want to learn from some of the best people, then you can get the summit ticket, which would allow you access to the main stage and, to the full gamut of everything else except the VIP experience. And then we have a festival pass, which starts at $99.
Oh, wow.
Because most of these longevity conferences are like $1,000-$2,000. So we wanted to create a path where people are like,
everyone.
Yeah,
That's
like I want to just dip my toe in this longevity thing. Like I'm curious, but I'm not sure if I'm like ready to commit.
Yes.
So it's like we wanted to give them, our goal is to make longevity more accessible. And so that festival pass, you can come, you can see the festival grounds. We have a secondary stage where there are going to be speakers and you can sort of get in touch with them, but the main stage has limited seating, so you won't be going into the main stage, but you're going to still get access to the full experience. And then maybe you see this and you're like, oh, I'm really inspired to get serious about this next year.
Come in
maybe I want to be in the industry. Maybe I met a speaker, or maybe they something triggers or inspires them. Because I know that happened for me, right? Like when I was a young person, I couldn't have afforded a $2,000 ticket to go to a conference.
No, of course not.
But it's like, and we even do a scholarship program for students, actually. So, we're really trying to create this, because I feel like longevity is becoming more and more elite and it's succeeding and it's growing, but I really want to see it become more accessible.
More accessible, yeah. No, it's true. I love that you're doing that. And by the way, we have a code. We can use Natalia for extra 10%.
Yes.
And I can't wait to be there. And it's going to be in the same space, right?
Yes, it's going to be in UCLA South Bay, overlooking the ocean, on a cliff, so you get sea air. And between the talks, you can jump out into the open air under the sea and the sky, do a cold plunge, do a workout. It's a, like I said, it's a festival, a summit, and a industry conference all in one.
Right, that's beautiful. So you have worked with many leading names in wellness. What separates the brands that truly work from those that are mostly marketing, which we kind of touch base, but I wanted to dive deep a little bit more.
I mean, I think really honestly what separates them is the ethic and morals of the founders.
And I always say, that's why I love going to the conferences, meeting the owners, and just to vibe with them. And honestly, sometimes, let's say I saw the product, and when I met the owner, I'm like, I cannot be part of that company. I cannot be part of.
I totally agree.
So it's interesting how it's really important to but for people out there who can really meet the owners, again, go to their website, read about them, right? Watch the podcast, listen to them, see how their energy vibing, what they're saying. It's the information is there right now. Do your homework before you even buy any device or supplement. And that's what my advice would be. And I guess that would be your advice as well, right?
In absence of, PRUVN being able to test every product in the market, for now, you're going to have to do some self-investigation. So what are your current non-negotiables for you at the moment? I often talk about this sort of circadian pattern that I think is very important, at least for me. And I was given this, but since I've been doing this, like it's pretty much, like you said, a non-negotiable for me. When I get up in the morning, I do not look at my phone for at least an hour, because that's when you're just putting in all of the problems that other people are giving you, whether you look at the news or even your own emails. It's like, you know, as as an executive, a lot of my job is solving problems, right? As they come up. So I take them like an hour in the morning. I go get sun in the morning sun. I do some breathing. I do some, you know, I'm not even call it meditation, let's say, but just sort of intention setting. And maybe even just being like calm and like walking through the trees, doing some breath work, being on the grass, going for a walk, to just sort of set my brain and turn it on for the day. That's a non-negotiable for me. I mean, even when I'm traveling, I do my best to do that, which is hard. Like if I'm in a Vegas hotel, you know what I mean? It's not going to happen maybe.
Vegas is harder.
Yeah. But I'll, you know, at least I'll maybe try to go to the gym in the hotel, or even if I don't have a lot of time, I'll just get up in the morning and I'll do 15 minutes of like breath work and movement in my room before I go out. It's just starting your day with a routine that sets you up for success.
Yeah. And you know, I do the same thing. For me, morning routine is my not negotiable. And let's say if I'm traveling for conferences and there's a one day like where you have to, you know how crazy the conference can be, so demanding. You just get up, I have like my bone broth, and you just like literally there's some people already starting at 8 a.m. speakers. I'm like, I want to watch this.
Sometimes I'm that guy. I'm opening the stage.
I
often.
know.
I'm the MC, so I got to be there before the opening speaker. Yes. So I deal with that all the time.
And I do crave, like if I don't get that one morning of sun gazing in the morning, connecting with the earth and everything else, I am just craving. It's almost like I don't have a water.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Like it's such an important part of my day now that when I'm cut off from it, you're right, I totally miss it.
And so what supplement routines that you have or other longevity and biohacking routines that you have in your personal daily life?
So every night, before bed, I often do a sleep protocol. I have a vibration plate, and I do like a massage gun, Theragun on my muscles to just sort of relax everything out of the day. I try my own best, and I'm not perfect at it, although I tell everybody to do it. I try to do my micro exercise snacks throughout the day. So like in between, video calls, I have the gym, my video call and my weight bench are like right there. So it's like I jump off my call and I go and I try to, do some weights, do some squats with the weight. And I really love a steel mace.
What's that?
Steel maces, if you haven't seen it, it's a long mace with at the end there's a weighted ball, and when you move it around your body, it's using all of your core muscles.
Oh, that's so cool.
And it basically it's like a whole. I'm really into the functional fitness, steel mace, kettlebells, clubs, weighted clubs. Like I'm loving these because I feel like, again, just as I'm getting older, it's like as a guy, it's like your core becomes where you're like, you get that soft around the middle. So it's like, how do I try to keep balancing that? I've always been just genetically a guy. Even when I was a triathlete, I still carried weight. It's just a big guy and I carry that. But it's like, how do I maintain at least my muscle mass? So even if I have a little bit of tissue on top of it, it's like I want my muscles to be retained.
What else? Any supplements that must be in your regime?
I really cycle my supplements, so I don't believe in taking the same thing for too long. I know too much about human biology and how it works. So there's a couple things, right now, the thing that I've been very interested is my NAD levels.
Okay.
So,
which is a big topic, NAD. Can we just dive in a little bit about NAD? If you know more information, can you debunk some things? A lot of actually my friends and even patients, they all wanted to have NAD. And then when I do test their NAD level, everybody's low.
Yeah. And if you're older, your NAD level is, just like if you see the graph, like it just goes off a cliff.
Even younger ones.
Yeah.
Even younger. And already in the 20s and 30s, NAD is already low.
That's not a good sign.
Well, yeah. So how do we upload NAD? Is there, because I know the market is so much NAD,
Yeah, there's
NMN,
NMN, NR,
and there's so much.
NAD boosters.
Which ones are good? Which ones working? And what's in your experience?
I mean, this is an area where a lot of research is ongoing. We're involved. I'm doing an NAD study. This full disclosure, we have a sponsor for an NAD study right now, but it's with a supplement. We were just at Biohackers World. We had the Niagen IVs, which is a form of NR, which is more of the precursor to the NAD. Because the problem a lot of people say is that when you do, like I loved NAD IVs. I mean, I was a big proponent, but it's a large molecule and a lot of people get sick when they do them. And then there's a lot of people that say because of it being such a large molecule, your body's going to get rid of it quicker. So the idea of the NR IV is that, or any of these precursors, right? So there's like NAD sprays, intranasals.
Or like peptides.
Yeah. So there's a lot of argument going on around this, right? So the truth of what I do know, what I can say for sure is NAD is a large molecule. Depending on your physiology, it might not be as bioavailable in its pure form of NAD.
Right.
So the precursors, I mean, the science of this makes sense, right? Just from a common sense, the precursors, whether it's NR or NMN or even some of the other components that your body can then convert into its own NAD naturally does seem like a sensible idea. But to your point, we can test for this. So you could do a fingertip NAD blood test at home, pick the best quality supplement or process you think is going to work for you, and retest.
Try it and retest, and some don't work. We've tried it.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's the problem is a lot of them.
Even the big companies that we've tried, it did not work, didn't move the needle.
Yeah. But again, this is the individual problem. Is that it's not because the product itself didn't work. It just didn't work for that individual. And you could take that same product in another individual and it could move the needle. So, so this is why, when we do studies, like I tell the brands, like we can't do a study on 4 people because it's 5 people. It's not going to work because we don't know. You have to look at population averages across cohorts, and then you also need to look at inclusion-exclusion criteria. What conditions are those people arriving with? Because there may be other things going on that their NAD pathways, they're so metabolically broken that they're not even going to be able to activate or make proper use of the NAD precursor because they're so metabolically damaged that you need to deal with the metabolic issues, get the cell functioning, and then they can actually convert that precursor. So it's a complex. This is what I mean.
It is. Even David Sinclair, I saw him spoke at the A4M, and even he said, even though before he was saying NAD, and even last speech that he said, he's like, we don't know.
Yeah. But that's the problem with this whole space is the science is we're not sure.
We're not sure.
So if I'm going to be a true scientist, like I can come on a podcast, I can give advice, I can say, here's what we see working in certain contexts. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure is nowhere near as sexy as you have this problem, take this and we'll solve it.
Right.
That sells.
Yeah. But there's one particular NAD that I took from Ian Clark. It's kind of made in a lab. I can share it with you a little bit later, which one is that. And that one is particularly an upload. It's a true molecule NAD. And I did an upload for 7 days. It's a powder form. And I cannot tell you how I felt incredible. And for me to even notice these changes, because I'm pretty bio-optimized already.
Right.
That was a big difference. Like I felt incredible energy, like waking up in the morning, I'm already full energized. I'm already like, let's go. Wanting to do 100 jumping jumps.
Just because you were so full of
energy. I'm like, I don't know what to do. I just need to jump.
There's a strong signal. So that is
mental clarity,
Yeah.
productivity just goes up. And so, and then I took the approach. He told me, like, I need to take the pills, continue, like with the NAD level, just a smaller dosage. I didn't do it. And then I saw the decline in 2 months.
Yeah.
And I felt it. I'm like, oh my God, I need my NAD up.
So this is the only problem with certain things like NAD and glutathione and, certain other maybe mitochondrial boosters. And this is where longevity is kind of going to get weird, because if you're maybe in your 50s, there may be compounds, molecules, protocols that you have to be on
For all the time.
Yeah.
That's it. From 40 and even now these days 30s.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing that happens, when guys go on testosterone replacement therapy. Like if you go down that path, right, which I'm trying to avoid, but you go down that path, it's like you're committing to that now.
You do.
Because if you go off that, like you're going to see the repercussions,
Yeah.
So, how do we do this in a way where we're trying to work with the natural systems of the body, but at the same time, as we age, certain of those natural systems, if they break down,
we need to boost.
Right. And that's the dream of longevity is cellular rejuvenation.
How do we boost? And knowing how to boost it, knowing what dosage you need, and knowing what exactly you need for your body.
Yeah. But that's the idea that I would not take the NAD. I would reprogram my cells to be better producing NAD just off of what I'm doing naturally. That would be the dream.
That would be the dream, but it's harder work.
Well, but that's what the promise is. We talked about genetic reprogramming. That's what cellular rejuvenation is. It's almost going so far kind of up. It's going upstream of the supplementation and saying,
but if that boost can help you a little bit to boost that thing.
Well, but if
you're feeling incredible.
But I'm saying if your cells are rejuvenated and they were producing that NAD already, you wouldn't need to take it exogenously.
Right, but if you don't have it and you need it,
yes. But this is the thing I'm talking about, right? There's what our body is capable of producing naturally. And then what are all the exogenous molecules, which are going to be supplements, drugs, interventions, like these things we take from outside of our body. If our biology was fully optimized, right? If all of us had the cells we did when we were fully, like when I was a triathlete in my 20s, if my cells were functioning at that level right now, I don't think I took any supplements. Maybe a little bit of protein powder.
Right.
Like that was all I needed.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, this conversation could go just on and on and on, because there's so many different things. And, look, I'm still learning and I'm still trying everything on myself. And I know what really works for me beautifully. And I love cycling as well. So cycling for me is number 1, 2, and everything. Because life, we can't be just,
Well, it's actually because again, when you take something exogenously, let's use an example that people might be familiar with, melatonin, right? Melatonin is the sleep molecule that helps us so when you upregulate melatonin at night, it helps sort of calm the brain and the nervous system to put you in a state of sleep. So a lot of people are taking melatonin gummies or supplements. Or if you take that chronically, take melatonin, same thing, even though melatonin isn't bad as a sleep drug, if you take that chronically, your body kind of goes, oh, you're going to give me melatonin? I don't have to make that anymore. And it will just say like, well, and then you don't take the melatonin. The body's like, well, there's no melatonin. Sorry, you're shit out of luck. You're not going to sleep tonight. Right. And so now you're dependent on this exogenous source of what your body should be able to produce naturally. And that's the danger for me.
Being addicted to on a daily basis to certain things. I understand. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I am the same thing. I don't believe in taking it, the same thing
But coming back to the NAD, you stopped taking the NAD supplement and you felt it. So maybe this is the balance. Like, are there things we're prepared to take chronically?
But you know why? Because my gene mutation is my mitochondria problem. So I already have that gene. My mitochondria is aging faster through that gene. So that's why I'm thinking my NAD for me would be the precursor that I need to have it all the time.
Right, to keep your mitochondria
mitochondria for that's what my doctor said. He's like, for you might be this thing forever till you die.
Yeah. And that might be the case. Like if you want to feel that level of energy, maybe that's the choice you make.
I mean, I don't really need it because I'm already fully energized, but I felt that extra power when I was taking it, and I loving it because I was like, wow, you can actually even feel that much power.
And you know what I want to say about that real quick is I think if people who are outside of the biological optimization or health optimization community realized how good they could actually feel, if you could give them one day in their own bodies where they felt fully optimized, they would quit so many of those bad behaviors if they knew that that was the outcome. Because I think a lot of times people, like even me, who I thought I was really, really biologically optimized, I went through a dietary change at one point where the brain fog just lifted. And I thought I was sharp. I thought I was doing great. But when that brain fog lifted, I realized I had been in a brain fog for like a decade.
Isn't that amazing?
And all of a sudden, it was like literally, it was almost like the channel on the TV was like 1 degree off, and everything was kind of blurry. And it was all of a sudden, it just came into crystal clarity. And I was like, "Wow, is this what the world is?" And it was actually ketosis. It was actually discovering ketosis. And the world just became so crisp and clear, and my brain and my ability to focus and concentrate just went so high that I was like, I don't want to ever stop this. Like, this is too good to be here. Like, whatever this is, I'm keeping.
This is so beautiful. I wish for everyone to get this nugget and just to even imagine and start changing your habits, your behaviors, your everything, and being even like aware, like have an interest.
This is possible. This is possible. Wherever you are, whatever you're struggling with, whether you're feeling emotionally dysregulated or physically dysregulated, there is a way to get out. I can't tell you exactly what that path looks like, but if you start seeing those results, trust me, you don't want to go back.
And get help. Ask for help. A lot of people just do not ask.
All right, so speaking of the Healthspan Summit, I got a gift for you.
Oh.
This was our VIP gift bag from last year. It has, I think, around $500 worth of goodies in there.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Ooh, Qualia. Silver Biotic. I love them.
This is actually a dog toy from Molecule. It's a dog toy from Molecule. I think it squeaks somewhere.
Yeah, Molecule is the air purifier. I have them. Young Goose Skincare.
Some samples. This one is interesting. This is Fully Vital. This is an anti-gray hair serum.
What?
Not that you need
that. No, but everybody needs it at some point. Oh my God, so many goodies. The Skin, 8 Skin, 1 Skin.
Yeah. We actually Magic Mind.
Oh, even like gummies.
No, this is the shots. The shots.
Oh, the shots. What is Magic Mind?
Magic Mind.
For the brain?
Yeah, it's actually, it's really nice. It's like a matcha tea with some other sort of adaptogens that you take as sort of a shot. They call it a brain
so cool.
shot. And then, speaking of testing, I don't know if you've ever seen these.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah, I have
strips.
it. I have it in my home. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so there's a couple other little samples.
Timeline.
Novos.
Yeah, Novos. I love Novos.
Yeah. Oh, this one's interesting. This one is actually kind of cool. It's the nitrous oxide.
Oh, yeah.
But it comes with a test strip, so you can test right on your tongue.
Amazing. I love
and then take it and then see pre and post. So it's built, the science testing is built right into the product.
That is so cool. I love that. Oh my God, thank you so much.
So this is from last year though.
Yes,
so just to be clear, we're going to have different products this year, but this is who we had last year. Although we're really happy, cool. Silver Biotics is coming. They will be there in person this year.
I use them every day in my lifestyle. Yes.
So, yeah.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. Looking forward to
Elias, thank you so much for this powerful conversation, from optimizing health span to calling out industry myths. This has been a masterclass in what true wellness looks like. For everyone listening, if you'd like to learn more about Elias' work or dive deeper into what PRUVN is doing to bring more integrity to the wellness space, check out the links in the description below. You can also follow Elias on social media to keep up with his latest insights and events. Also, use my code Natalia10 plan to buy a ticket for Health Summit. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay curious, keep learning, and remember, wellness is life.